Hello everybody and welcome back to my tour of the Battleship New Jersey. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and as always I want to give a special thanks to Ryan Szimanski and the Battleship New Jersey Museum for letting us come out and do this, as well as everybody that is on the screen currently for you guys to see who helped make this video possible directly. But I also want to say thank you guys to everybody who continues to watch the series and who watches all my other videos. I appreciate everybody. And I hope you enjoy. In this episode, we're going to be going down into, we're going to wrap up our turret, and we're going to go into a magazine, and we are also going to check out fire control by the end of the episode. So, with that being said, hopefully you guys enjoy, and make sure if you do, you punch the like button for me, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.
The deck in here, you can see it's segmented. This outer ring does not move at all, built into the side of the ship.
This is the bearing?
This ring rotates however the turret rotates. So if the turret turns 90 degrees, this goes with it and then it stays still. It has to do that because the gray columns there are the shell hoists. So they're attached directly to the breech of the gun. The inner ring here can rotate whatever direction you want it to. So the idea is that we're using all the shells near the hoists. We can drag a shell from over here to here and then rotate it to the hoist and get it up there.
Oh, okay, so this is just prime plate.
Shell storage.
Yeah, and then the shells would be stored here 2 deep and bicycle chained in so they don't go sliding. Same as out here. The Hourglass battleships have the highest shell capacity of any battleship. They can carry 130 rounds per barrel. So that normally you'd be about 100 rounds per barrel. So it's kind of unique that they can carry this many. Just by virtue of having a larger barbette to support the slightly larger 50 caliber turret. Let's see, the deck in here would normally be very thickly greased so that the shells could slide relatively easily. And it only takes 2 guys to move a shell. One would be holding the nose so it doesn't tip over, and the other one would be using the gypsy head capstan to pull it.
I feel bad for the guy that had to clean the grease off the deck.
Yeah, no, we had about 40 volunteers working here for close to a year to get this all cleaned up. About a $500,000 project. Now, up there is a second shell deck that's absolutely identical to this one. If you wanted to go up and look around, we could, but I say it's identical. That's where the turret stops and the clamps that keep the turret from falling off.
I'm just going to stick my head in it. There you go, folks. Now imagine working up here on the greased floor and then coming down these steel steps.
Yeah, right.
I think that's why they're wider and they've got burrs on them.
When I was younger, I took a camp trip to the Intrepid, and I knew a kid was going down the steps and slipped and whacked his head on the. Yeah, he got taken away by the ambulance.
Ouch. Then we got the powder doors, and we got the powder bags over here.
Hey, let's go down and see a magazine. The shells are relatively inert. They only have about 3,500 pounds of powder in them out of the total 2,700 pound weight. So you could light a fire under one of those and it wouldn't cook off in a week. But the powder is stored in silk bags so that the silk will burn up the fire when it got its fire. It doesn't leave any residue in the magazine switches.
Oh, yeah.
So we got flash-proof roller doors like this one, so if there's an explosion, the turret doesn't go through to the magazine and vice versa. And it all still works. There's actually 2 layers of these between us and the magazine that the powder would have to be passed through, and then it gets picked up and taken to the elevator.
How much did an actual powder bag weigh?
110 pounds. So it takes 6 of them, 660 pounds, to fire a 2,700 pound projectile 23 miles.
And do you know the statistics as far as like during World War II? I know later on they weren't firing as often because the shore bombardment didn't need to, but like during World War II, how fast could they load the guns?
1 round every 30 seconds.
Okay, so right there where we are in the game.
The
Nice.
issue is you achieve that high rate of fire because the shell hoist is actually a magazine that can hold 5 shells.
Right.
So you preload that with 5 shells and you can keep going for a little bit. The issue is you have to preload exactly what you want to shoot. So you throw a bunch of armor piercing in there, well then you got to wait until you've shot all 5 of those to get a high capacity round in.
Gotcha.
Or would they sit there and maybe do like one of the turrets AP, one of the turrets HE?
It depends on what you're fighting. If you're shooting against land positions, you just load 1 shell in 1 turret and fire it and see where it lands, and then you do the next one. If you're firing against an enemy battleship, you do all 9 the same. And we're gonna keep going through here.
Ooh, this is cool. Oh, I'm glad I looked up. That would have hurt.
So these bags are full weight if you want to try and pick up a 110-pound bag.
No problem.
Well, with those per barrel per minute.
That could be a problem after a few minutes.
Basically, when you get out safe from that.
I'm going to physical therapy for my shoulder. I'm touch myself.
The
Yeah,
powder
don't.
magazines, just like the shell handling rooms, are 2 stories tall. So the upper story, they're dropping bags onto the gravity hoist to send it down here, and the lower story is identical, but they're pulling the bags out and throwing them on this, which can then go to the roller door to the turret.
So is there some sort of like carriage that was on these beams?
We've got one rigged up somewhere else that you'll see. But yeah, there's a slide that fits on here for when you're onboarding or offloading powder, and you can sling your powder bags and shells to it to transfer that from magazine to magazine.
And then like this just goes on there and
Exactly. If we want to continue to use the watertight doors, we have to take out sections so that we can use them. So these would only be in place when we're actually doing powder handling. I love every single gravity hoist on the ship has keep off this hoist or do not ride the hoist on it.
So you know somebody was riding the hoist.
Yep.
Because they only tell you stuff that people have already done.
Exactly. And it's a very 80s stencil pattern. So
There were some bored guys in the Gulf.
Or they just did want to walk up all instead.
makes sense.
Quicker.
We never do that on forklifts or anything when we need to get something out of a pallet rack. We don't ever ride the forks. It's against the rules.
Somebody did it.
you can also see the chill water radiator system in the overheads. The nitrocellulose powder will start to break down if it either gets damp or hot. And when it breaks down, it will either not work or spontaneously combust. Can't really decide which. So all magazine spaces have chilled water radiators.
Now, where would the water come in if they have to flood? Like if they...
That's a good question. I'm not entirely sure where the sprinkler system is, or if it just floods up from plumbing in the deck.
Because I know that was a thing that they had to do on Iowa because they were afraid that the ammo was going to cook off.
I'm sure they had something somewhere.
Yeah, I know there's a system. I can show you where the magazine flood switches are to set it off.
You know what? You guys got GoPros. Like, let's just push the button and see what happens.
Yeah, you wait
Yo.
right here. I'll go hit the button.
Yeah, I'll sit right here. Don't worry.
So, you've been through the restored turret. If you would like to see an unrestored turret, we can stick our heads in turret 1 just forward of us.
Might as well.
Alright, flashlights out.
Ooh.
I'll let you guys go
Excuse me.
and stay out here and come back, right?
Yeah, I think so. We're just sticking our heads in it. What? Oh, jeez. I am the clumsiest person on the planet. And we get the same thing that we saw.
And battleships are built based on Star Wars rules. There's just pits of death everywhere. It's not really.
He's not coming. He's just gonna wait for us.
Workplace. Yeah. So this is what the space looks like before we start restoring it.
It's pretty cool. This is the kind of thing you see on those, what are those channels?
Ghost Hunters?
No, not Ghost Hunters. What, like, all illegal freedom videos where they go and they explore. They call it illegal freedom because it's trespassing, but they go and explore like abandoned buildings and stuff. That's pretty cool.
Orange fluorescent.
Dude,
Yeah, the orange fluorescent tape was added when the ship was put in mothballs.
I know, I mean the light fixture.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, you'll see tape arrows like that one that are reflected all over the ship. And that's so that the guys who are inspecting the ship while she's in mothballs can find their way out again.
it's amazing how much you guys have been able to get done already. Like, the amount of work that goes into this is insane.
Yeah, you can say that again. All right.
Oh shoot, that's a sprinkler system, isn't it? It's like right into the powder or something?
Yeah, here's a turret sprinkler system. The magazine sprinkler heads, I assume, would look the same, but I couldn't point them out for you. If you look around the corner there where it gets really narrow, that is the biggest weakness of Iowa class battleships. See right over there?
Oh, that's the curve of the bow?
Yep, because the bow gets so narrow so far forward to attain the high speed, the torpedo defense near turret 1 is much thinner than desirable. And the Iowas already have a thinner torpedo defense than they should have in order to fit through the Panama Canal. It's 22 feet thick in most places, which is sort of okay, but not great, especially for more modern torpedoes or Japanese long lances. But
Yeah.
up here is the real threat area.
Japanese torpedoes are the worst.
We're going to head right back up the way we came, and I'll show you where you aim the guns from.
Watch your head. It's foam,
Yeah, but it's like rock hard foam.
but it'll hurt. So now we know what these are for.
Unable electromechanical analog computers that aim the 5-inch guns. And then you've got the stable verticals, which are basically the trigger consoles. We'll talk about that more in the other room. I love this space because you can see the massive redundancy built into the fire control circuits system. Each one of those switches represents a different fire control computer, a different rangefinder, or a different gun. And you can cross-connect all of it as things get knocked out in battle or are otherwise damaged. So there's a few backups if something goes wrong. And that's the thing about battleships. As much armor as they have, there's always something that can punch through it. Some range or some newer gun. So they're built with this massive redundancy that I think is even more important than the armor plating.
And then on top of that, they were meant to be put into, the front line. Like, it's a battleship. It's supposed to be there.
Exactly. So come on over here. So, that's a Mark 8 Rangekeeper. This is the last one in the world that still works. You'll excuse me. Sure. This is how you aim the 16-inch guns. It takes 19 separate variables, Some of them are fed in automatically, like the ship's own speed is fed in from the pit sword. Other ones comes from the rangefinders. The rangefinder tells us the bearing and the estimated range to the target. Others are pure guesswork. How fast is the enemy ship going? It looks like it's doing about 20 knots. You plug that in, drop a shot. It was behind them. They must be doing 25 knots. So on and so forth. Tremendous machine. The guys who built this machine knew that Earth was curved, unlike people today. So it actually takes that into effect, the Coriolis effect of the curvature of the Earth.
That's pretty.
So it will plot a fall shot very precisely. You put the wrong information into it, of course, and you get a bad answer. But as long as you put accurate information into it, you get an accurate fire control solution.
Now the clear plate, I'm assuming, was done for museum.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. There's
So
a
this would have been-
metal plate that would go over it, but we replaced it with the plexi.
I agree with that decision because it's pretty awesome to see everything moving inside.
Yeah, I tell kids I'm bringing through here, this is a computer, and they're like, no, it ain't. Technically, it is.
The originals.
Yeah, this thing was made during the Great Depression with hand-filed gears that mesh perfectly together.
How people today think they know better.
Odds, you know.
And believe it or not, in the 1980s, they looked at replacing this with a modern digital computer. And they decided, yeah, we can make a digital fire control computer that's this effective, but it's not more effective, so we're not even going to bother. Plus, this does something a digital computer does not. We just lost electrical power.
It could still work.
Exactly. It does still work. The lowest ranking sailor in the compartment becomes a hamster.
You put in kinetic energy, you get out all the fun. That's awesome. More redundancy.
Exactly. And then there's another one of these back aft. That one does not work anymore. We had to strip parts out of it to get this one going. But yeah, it shows you just how much redundancy is built in. And we've got our own fire control switchboard for the main guns. And then you got this over here.
Firing key.
So the stable vertical. Back with the older battleships, like you're familiar with the standard type that had the two either tripod or cage masts.
Yep.
The idea there is the three-tiered tower on top is for fire control. The lowest tier being for your 5-inch guns and the higher two tiers being for your main battery. You have two of those, primarily so that one can look at the target and the other one can look at the horizon. And those guys in that after fire control tower, one being choked out by the funnel smoke, and two, they're staring at the horizon as the ship is rocking and rolling. And so they would use that to try and fire the guns when the ship is level instead of rocking. Because this is not a stable firing platform. We've just used the state-of-the-art technology to plot a fire control solution. And now the ship's rocking and rolling throws that out the window entirely. So, right around the beginning of World War II, they started to add stable verticals. It's a gyroscope that can sense whether the ship is rocking or rolling. And on the older battleships, they decide, hey, this means we can cut away that after fire control tower. And on the newer battleships, it means that you don't really have an after tower. You've just got that big forward control tower. So,
Into New Jersey, fleet right, contact the quarterdeck at 7203, fleet right, quarterdeck 7203.
your first trigger is an alarm that sounds throughout the ship. And this should be, in this position, the pineapple should be there, but we had to swap them because this one still works, and this one doesn't. So, you sound an alarm, tell me you're going to fire the gun, and then you pull the trigger on this, and nothing happens, because it's waiting for the gyroscope. So, you're just holding that down until the gyroscope senses that the ship is level and allows the firing circuit to close. If you decide, yeah, I don't care about that, let's just fire right now, this is your hand key that'll fire it off right away without taking this into account. So if this goes down for some reason, or you're just point blank range and you need to fire it now, there's no waiting for the ship to roll, you got that.
And this just has the bump, so, you know, no matter what, you feel you don't fire it by accident.
Yeah, exactly. If the lights are out, you can still feel, all right, I've got the key I'm supposed to, and there's a key on this side I don't pull, and a key on this side that's the alarm. Exactly. There is a radar on top of each gun turret. They were still using World War II powder during the 1980s and 90s. And there was some concern early on that that powder, being stored in warehouses all these years, would be unstable. You can adjust for that. If you know how fast the shell leaves the barrel, you can tell, oh, there's something wrong with the powder, and plug it into the computer as a variable. Now, the temperature of the powder in the magazines is a variable that goes into the computer. But you need to know the velocity of the shell. So each turret has a radar on top measuring the velocity as the shell leaves the barrel. And that gets fed out here at the printout, should be around 2,400 feet per second. At that speed, which is ridiculously slow, you can watch these things with the naked eye go across the sky. But it takes 88 seconds for the projectile to go from here to a target at 23 miles. Which means with a 30-second reload, you can have over 30 tons of shells in the air before the first one hits the target.
Whoops, I was wrong.
Now, is this the IO class that the Iraqis were surrendering to the drone that it was launching out?
That was, I believe, Wisconsin's drone and Missouri's gun firing. We were equipped with a drone, but the only time in history that somebody has surrendered to an unmanned vehicle.
Now the Iowas were capable of shooting out to what, 24 miles? I know you said 23 a second ago. Is it 23?
23 land miles. It's like 43,000 yards, which is closer to 21 nautical miles.
What's the furthest we've ever shot and hit what we were aiming at? Do you know?
The furthest range that a battleship has hit another moving target is just 26,000 yards, or 13 miles. Warspite hit an Italian cruiser at that range at Mattapan, and Scharnhorst hit Glorious at that range at roughly the same time. That's a moving ship to a moving target. For greater distances than that, Massachusetts hit an unmoving target at Casablanca, the Battleship Jean Bart, at a greater range. I don't remember the number off the top of my head. And I would almost guarantee you that some of our naval gunfire support missions were at targets at greater ranges. But I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what the record is there.
I always try to tell everybody that the Jean Bart's so lucky that it was actually unfinished when it was in the fight, because it had a 16-inch armor-piercing round explode in its secondary magazine, but there was nothing there. So, and that was the reason we jammed its turret, which is why you're used to having its guns knocked out all the time. But we jammed its turret, and it quit firing, so everybody just kind of left it. And then it started firing again after they got the turrets moving.
It was the quad turret, and it had the
basically two twin turrets saddled together.
Yeah. So.
Now let's keep heading over here. Let's head in there.
Hello?
Hello. Hey Ryan, I know you can't because, professional and all that, but as I've been watching your videos where you talk about, like, the Battle of Lady Gulf and all that, all I was thinking is, I really want to see him do this like he was on Drunk History. I don't know if you ever saw that show.
I have seen some.